Yo, what's up everybody? So I want to make an update to my solos tier list because it's been a couple patches since I believe the last one that we actually made was the Rozzy tier list, and now we have Luke and CATHY and a ton of balance changes that have shifted out the metagame quite a bit, and ranked now being a more competitive environment is gonna mean that, well, you know what that means, right? Things are going to change quite a bit. People are going to play things. People are going to be more optimal. It's a more competitive environment. We finally get to see things in a different light, which is pretty awesome. So with that introduction being out of the way, if you do like this type of video, if you want to support the channel, about 80% of you guys aren't subbed to the channel yet. It would really help me out a ton. And hey, if you don't want to, it's okay. I fully understand it. You're just going to get ran down by Hegen every game. That's on you. Should have subbed. I warned you. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. So let's talk about what differentiates the tiers. So first off, needs nerf. Pretty self-explanatory. These are going to be the best characters in the game at the moment. They are slightly overtuned or very overtuned and are definitely need to be knocked down a bunch. They're very consistent. They're too safe. They can pick up kills really easy. And you're going to notice a very common trend between the characters that are going to be up here. Really good. These are very consistent characters that have good build paths, that have a lot of in-combat strength to them, a lot of agency in fights, and are generally pretty safe and don't have a lot of risk associated to taking fights with them. Good. Pretty much we heard from really good, but just worse than that. They generally have some bad matchups, or they don't have enough agency within their kit to really run away from fights, but they are strong in certain scenarios or certain parts of the game where they are allowed to really snowball, but if they don't, then they're gonna have a ton of issues. Viable, these are just kind of meta specific. If their routes are open, they're going to be pretty good. If their routes are open, they're going to suffer. They have a ton of issues of running away. They don't really benefit from farming a ton. They're very reliant on one gameplay style, and they just struggle and need a little bit of love to really be in the game. But a common trend with this tier you're going to notice is that if they were buffed, it may be an issue because their kits are kind of not healthy. Needs buffs. These are characters that are a tad bit too weak, which I will say right now as a disclaimer, there is no character that, in my opinion, really needs buffs. And I know it's gonna sound really weird because I bitch about Shuichi all the time, but I genuinely don't think there's any character that need buffs right now, and I'll explain that as we go along. But first, let's start with Jackie. So Jackie is very interesting. Pretty much no matter what you do with her right now, she is going to be incredibly strong, and she fits really good in the current ranked meta. It's very either hyper aggressive or very slow, and regardless of what the meta is, Jackie always has a place within it. Her kit is really strong at picking fights at any stage of the game, and pretty much if she doesn't want to die, you're not going to catch her. If you go dagger on her in specific, she is going to be really easy to, it's going to be really easy for her to run away, and that's going to be her best weapon to hyperscale with, especially, you know, when she gets those mid-throw pieces, when she gets that dagger mastery up. Late game, it is really hard to deal with Jackie with a ton of movement speed. So with dagger and two-handed in mind, I am still gonna put those in really good because they scale insanely well, and they're really good into just running away, and they have a ton of transitional pieces, and they really fit into Jackie's game plan. With axe and dual swords in mind, I'm gonna put them both in good. I believe they are both still perfectly fine. Axe kind of does what dagger and two-handed wants to do, which is transition and get into those late game, but it has a much stronger early game, but a much less impactful weapon skill, and it's kind of hard to pick up kills against the really good characters in the meta game right now. And dual swords, while nice, there isn't exactly a lot of melees in the game right now, and I think if you're on dual swords right now, you're kind of griefing yourself, and you're really hoping to play like axe, but somewhat worse. If you are able to stick to somebody, great, but a lot of the top contenders right now, a lot of what ladder is those poke mages that are really hard to stick onto. So that's why I'm putting dual swords where it is, but it can pick up kills really easy early on. Aya. So Aya's really interesting. I think that Aya is kind of slept on right now, and I think this goes for most variations of her. I think in terms of AR, I think AR is still really, really solid. It is one of the best late game skills in the game, but it has a hard time picking up kills. But its route is normally pretty open, and Aya is still a decently safe character. It is going to be hard to kill Aya a lot of the time. She can run away the E. She is pretty tanky with her passive, and she does have the ultimate to help peel for herself. And a lot of times, if Aya is able to get out of that early game, she's just gonna win the game for free. And that is the whole point of AR Aya. It is that Exodia Aya build, but it is so unpopular. You will never see it very often. But when it's there, I know you probably had the game before where you get to late game, you're like, oh crap, there's an AR Aya here. This is unfortunate, and I guess I'll just take second place, right? That's kind of just what happens with Aya. So either she gets really ahead by farming mastery and just ignoring everyone for the rest of the game, playing her own game, or she dies very early on, and it's just pretty unfortunate. Pistol Aya is interesting because they have a myriad of different build paths. So you go Elegance with a ton of amp behind it, you go Auto Attack, you can go Magnum Boa, you go a Hybrid. Pistol Aya is one of the most flexible characters in the game, and Pistol Reset is an amazing skill on her. I still think this is very good. I do not think it is like oppressive in the slice. I think it fits in a perfect spot. It is very safe. It is quite hard to kill her. She has a ton of tools to pick up kills of her own, especially if she's going on the amp route. If she goes on an auto attack route, she's going to be a lot tankier, but is going to have a harder time picking up those kills. So depending on what you want to do on Pistol Aya is really what she's going to complement for you. But I do think it is pretty good nonetheless. Sniper.
Okay.
Sniper is interesting. Sniper doesn't exactly have a ton that it can do.
Okay.
But it is held back by its weapon skills. Weapon skill isn't the greatest, but it is still pretty strong regardless. It is still very, very strong. It is still a fine weapon. It does have some problems winning in the final circle, but it can pick up a lot of kills early on. The sniper has such high attack power numbers, and it's just very easy for a sniper to pick up kills, especially early on into the game. But it is definitely one of those builds where if you don't pick up those kills early on, you're gonna struggle quite a bit, and generally you're gonna feel like, damn, maybe I should have been on pistol instead. So I'm gonna put sniper in good. It is still a fine weapon to pick. It can still net you those couple kills and get you really rolling on, especially into later on to the game, but I don't think it's absolutely insane. Hyun, whoa, this one's interesting. So Hyunwoo actually, while not being the most combat-oriented character in the game, does fit the second alternative for the game, which is picking up a couple kills early on and being able to rat. Hyunwoo is a fantastic rat. He can run away forever. It is pretty much impossible to kill him if he doesn't want to die. And man, it is obnoxious dealing with Hyunwoo half the time. So Hyun is definitely gonna be pretty up there. Regardless if you are a glove or on Tonfa, I think Hyunwoo is still in that really good tier. Can pick up kills early, can run away a ton. Super, super, super solid character. Magnus. God. I hate Magnus. Magnus, it doesn't matter what weapon you're on. Both his weapon skills suck. And they're just... God... So if we're talking about auto attack Magnus, it doesn't do anything. But if we're talking about the optimal way to play him, which is either amp hammer or rat jam, well, bat and or hammer, it doesn't really matter. They're both really good in the context that he can run away. And again, he's kind of like a watered down version of Hyun, but with the safest kit in the entire game, where if somebody runs up to you and you can't take the fight, you're just going to eat them off and you're going to motorcycle out. And you won't die. You'll get second place, but you will not die. And that is the whole premise of Magnus right now. So because of that, he is in really good standing, and I hate to say it like that, but it's kind of just hard to kill Magnus. If he doesn't want to die, he's not gonna die. He's gonna build pure defensive stats, and he's just gonna pick up maybe a kill or two early on and just run away and rat jam, and that is what Magnus does right now. But hey, that's what gets you LP. It works. You can do it. Fiora does the opposite though. Fiora is not much of a rat jammer, but she can pick up a ton of kills throughout the course of the game. She can scale immensely well. And I think she is in a very strong spot right now. She's kind of a character that is impossible to balance because she's a stat checking character, and But regardless, pretty much all of her weapons are good except two-hand. I think two-hand is definitely the weakest of the bunch, but it is still Fiora, and I do think it does have a place in the game. I don't think it is weak at all, and I think you can still go two-handed Fiora and be quite fine. In terms of rapier and spear, I think these are both still really good. It's kind of hard to say which one is better. I do think spear is generally better, just maybe a tad bit harder to play with her combos, but rapier is going to be really nice into what's very, very good into the game right now, which is what you're going to see when we get to the needs nerfs tier. Rapier Fiora actually can obliterate these characters before they can even touch her, so that is pretty nice, but it's a very unpopular pick. But when it is picked, it's going to absolutely demolish. Now, the next one is Nadine. Oof, the feast or famine character of all time. Either she gets those hunts and farm and she absolutely snowballs the game, or she dies and you're like, damn, why am I on Nadine? So I do think that crossbow Nadine, it is impossible to, you know, it is still a good character. In terms of Souls Elites, it can catch people off guard. It can absolutely snowball the game out of control, and you can RNG your pretty much a full build by just killing a couple animals that you're gonna do anyways and snowball the game out of control. But you can die very easily, and that is the problem with Nadine. But her early game snowball potential is ridiculous, and really there is just such a wild card factor to Nadine. But if you are going to play Nadine, you are for sure going to be playing auto attack variant. Amp variant is a kind of a troll, not really much to play there, but crossbow is a self-peel tool, one that you kind of need in your kit, especially if you're in a bad position, so you definitely want to be going crossbow. Bow, I do think, is okay. It's probably more of a viable option, really meant to catch people off guard in terms of routing, but a lot of time you'd rather just be on the crossbow. You are losing a lot of safety, especially for a squishy range character. I don't think by me putting her in bow and viable is me saying, hey, this is bad. It's more of me saying, hey, this is just worse than the other options that you do have, and you're giving up a big part of your kit, which is that self-peel, by picking bow. Zahir. So, Zahir is really strong. Not in the wow, this is really broken, but more of a wow, this is just good. Zahir is really hard to kill. He has a ton of moon speed built to this kit. He has the tornado for self peel. He has the ultimate for self peel. He has the smoke screen and or cow traps for self peel. He is really, really hard to kill. And generally, you build Zahir tankier. You tend to take the tankier amp items to help you out to survive, since your range is shorter than the other control mages. But Zahir is really, really good, man. He's definitely one of the least popular characters in the game, but once you put some time into him, he's absolutely disgusting. And in terms of which one's stronger, I do think Throw is the stronger of the two, whereas Shuriken is definitely, you lose out a lot of that attack power you would have gained from going something, say, like Ruthenium Marble, but you do gain Cow Traps instead. But I just don't feel like Cow Traps is helping you a lot in the context of the metagame, which is a lot of range characters. You want to kind of get that burst as fast as possible, and you know, Cow Traps is really nice when a melee is trying to run you down, but Smokescreen can kind of just do the same thing, whereas Throw can, whereas Cow Traps won't really help you out into a ton of matchups. Smokescreen, while it may not help you into those range matchups either, it does give you a better weapon overall, even though if it is slower. But I don't think Zahir's routes are very contested right now, so I don't know. I do think Zahir is pretty strong. Not a lot of Zahirs on ladder, not a lot of people contesting your route. It is always a little bit risky because Ruthenium Marble is pretty hard to build, but if you are able to get that online and you play safe with this character, you are really hard to get to, really hard to kill, and if people underestimate you, it's really easy to pick up some kills under your belt. Heart. So I've been spamming an absolute ton of Heart. Just released a video today. Check it out if you haven't already. But Heart is pretty interesting. I don't know where I would put it, to be quite honest. I have seen the top Korean Heart player, and he makes her look absolutely disgusting, but we are not on Korea. I have seen we have a couple other NA Hearts that play her Enad, really, and they do quite well for her, but I don't think that she's doing anything crazy. I'm like very reluctant to put her in really good, but I don't think she's bad. I think she's the type of character where you really cannot make a mistake, because you will die, but you can absolutely snowball a game out of control, especially once you master her. But I don't know. I feel like if you are good on this character, she's a very good character, and if you're just okay with her, she's a good character. I'm gonna put her in really good just because I want to obviously put this at the top of the ladder. The people that do main Hearts and are just insane at her are gonna make her look really good, and that is clearly the peak character's power. So yeah, that is where we're gonna put Heart. She's really hard to play properly, but really strong if you do get her down. Isol, man, Isol's weird. I think Isol's really good. I do think Pistol is a lot better though. Pistol Isol can kind of just reset and get a ton of damage off, and it can be really safe with his dash. You could dash, reset with pistol skill, dash again, and then you have the late game trap win condition, and you can pick up kills really easy early on, because if you just land a Q on somebody, they're dead. That's it. they're just dead. They gotta accept it, especially if you have your weapon skill up. So I do think that Pistol Isol is here. I don't think he's up here. Definitely think he's in a really good tier. As for AR, man, AR skill is really good, but you lose. Man, I just don't see a world where I want to go AR over Pistol. I really don't. AR skill is kind of bullshit in some matchups, but my idea is if I'm going AR Isol, why am I not going AR Aya instead? That just does the same thing but better. So I think in that regard, like really all AR Isol has over AR Aya, and I've been saying this forever, it's just more burst. But at that point, just go Pistol Isol, right? You'll get that same burst, but you get more safety in your kit. And if you wanted to go AR, just go AR Aya, which is just a god late game with that passive. I think it's just good. I don't think it's insane. I don't know. AR Isol just hasn't really impressed. It does have that early game groove potential, but I don't think it does. There isn't enough reason to pick AR Isol over AR Aya to really justify moving it to really good. Lee Dailin. So probably the first one of the bunch that's gonna go into the needs and nerfs tier. And really the only change I would want to see is I think that silence is a bit too oppressive. Lee Dailin is easily one of the best characters in the game. She has a ton of agency in and out of combat. She has her ultimate in case a fight goes bad. Of course, it puts on a massive cooldown if that's the case, but any get out of jail free card is very rare and is really nice to have. But the biggest thing here is that Lee Dailin can just straight up one-shot you with zero counterplay. If you do her combo properly, you can quite literally go in, silence them, get your full rotation off before the silence wears off, and kill them before a spellcaster can actually cast anything. So that is pretty unfair to deal with. This really only goes for both weapons, but glove can do faster and does get more burst in its rotation due to glove skill, and of course has better scaling because of glove skill. So glove is definitely going to be the one that goes up here, while nunchucks is still quite okay. You are really limited to one route, which is the crit 3-zoner, and that route is generally very contested, but you can go amp as well, which isn't that strong. It's very squishy, very high risk, high reward, and I don't think there's much of a merit of going that versus any other build. For that case, I'll probably just put here in good, because the weapon skill just isn't good enough. Of course, yes, you can do something that glove is doing, so maybe it's up here, but looking in the full picture of things, the nunchuck skill just is pretty bad. You might as well just go glove, and I think this shows just how good just the auto attack variant of Lee Dailin is. It's like the Bloodwing Knuckles, Motor Helm, Rocket Jack. You build all this super fast, and you're just able to kill anybody that runs into you. And if they're a spellcaster, they just kind of die because you kill them before they even have the opportunity to cast any spells. And Lee Dailin is one of the best users of transitional items in the game. So if you find a mithril item, you get those mithril strings, you get Imperial Soak Gloves early on, it is pretty much impossible to deal with. Lee Dailin also has some of the best scalings in the game, so if your Lee Dailin's there in a final game circle, you're probably dead and you have to deal with it. So Lee Dailin, one of the best characters in the game by far. Not a very popular one, definitely slept on, and is just absolutely disgusting. Yuki. Man, oh man, Yuki is interesting. So I still think Yuki is very strong, but not a character that a lot of people are playing right now, which I find interesting. His route has definitely become more contested, but he's generally the strongest person within that route. So normally when it comes to this, I'm just like, man, maybe you should be running him anyways just to contest that, but we just don't have a lot of Yuki players on NA, and the ones that we do have been playing more dual swords recently. Because of that, I do think Yuki is going to be really good. Probably like the top of it. He is a character that can run away very easily. He's a character that can get a ton of kills very easily. He's very, very strong early on into the game. You get your 2-zone weapon and somebody walks into you. Oh, they really can't run for you because you're Yuki. So you pick up that kill, you murder that, you get him out the lobby, and boom, you're good to go. You got your free kill for the game, and now at that point, you just farm up, get transitional pieces, and work towards the late game. Dual sword Yuki, on the other hand, I think it does what dual sword Jackie doesn't, and it's quite literally one thing. It has an auto attack reset. So something I've been seeing a lot on ladder is dual swords crit Yuki, but with dragons Dobak, it's giving you immense range where you're able to dash in, auto attack a Q, and if that Q double crits because dual sword gives you 2 auto attacks, they are dead. It is such a snowbally feaster famine build, but I just can't see it really being bad because you're Yuki and you could run away from anything. So I don't know, you do give up the use of a weapon skill for extra auto attacks, but you have such insane burst in your kit, probably the most burst in out of anybody so early on into a game that I just feel hard to really drop them anywhere lower than this. I think it's something that's still being slapped on. I do think amp dual swords is still okay and something that you can play, but I think you want to go auto attack. I think you want to go crit dual sword Yuki if that's something that's you want to try for dual swords. If you're going to play dual swords, I think crit's the way to go. It's just really strong. Hegen, I don't think I need to say anything. Hegen is the most broken character, I mean god tier character in this game by far, topping the ladder in NA, topping the ladder in Korea. This character, I don't know how she keeps avoiding nerfs. I genuinely have no fucking idea. She is absolutely insane. She has, so imagine how we met earlier that Lee Dailin is very safe, has uninterruptible CC, and can one-shot you before you can even react. Hegen can do the same thing, but at a range, and she can jump over half the map if she's in a bad position. It is not fun to deal with. She has too much power in her kits. Really, the only thing that is bad is that she is on a 3-zone weapon, which is just like, okay, yeah, that sucks, but it doesn't really matter when you have this much safety built into your kit. You have bow skill for scouting out bushes, you have bow skill for killing mobs from a range, you have a slow on your Q, a root on your W, a fear built into your passive, a gap closer slash enabler of your passive that could jump over across the map and does a ton of damage, an ultimate that got buffed for some reason. I will never understand why. It's just absolutely crazy what this character can do, and honestly, I am just waiting for her to get smacked with a nerf hammer already. She does way too much for free, and she's been good for way too long. Just remove her already, honestly. Way too good. And in terms of Shuriken Hegen, yes, it's still really good. I don't even know where I would play it. It's just kind of a rat jam build. It can't kill as easily. You lose a ton of range from the bow, but you do get to build online faster and more reliably, so it's probably just really good. Maybe still, honestly, it's probably just had just a price put in broken tier, but yeah, I mean, it's still just insane. You're never gonna kill her. It's impossible to kill her. She takes less damage for some reason, so yeah, Shuriken Hegen is definitely still fine, even though you deal like negative damage. Zukai, it's a weird one. Zukai's received a lot of nerfs. He's been the receiver of a ton of nerfs recently. I don't think he's broken. I do think he has some very volatile matchups where characters can't do anything, and that sucks, but I do not think he is broken. I do think he is very good. I do think if you're going to play Zukai, the spear variant is really good, and I think as of recent times, I think Dagger might be a lot better. Dagger is pretty crazy on him because it gives him that ability to run away or pick favorable fights, as Yukai already has a good time running away as is. Your Q is a really big slow, it's really easy to hit, and your E can go over walls, it can go over the pond lake, it could do over a ton of things, and it's just really good. And then usually Zukai has too much HP to just kind of kill him anyways, and he has extra healing from his passive on food, so it's really hard to burst a Zukai down, right? Especially if they're stacking properly. So Zukai is definitely one of those characters where I don't think he's broken, but I do think he's very strong. And if you see a Zukai in the final circle, you're like, fuck, I probably lost. And a lot of times Zukai can get level 6 and just kill you, and you're like, fuck, I guess I just lost. And that is kind of just what ends up happening with this character. Sisela, man, I don't even think I need to say anything. Sisela is... and I'm gonna say this for both weapons. Sisela is pretty ridiculous. So, Caltrap scaling is really crazy and can one-shot you for free. Now, the reason why Caltraps is so good on Sisela versus the other two, which is Zahira and Hegen, is that she can, it's actually built into her kit to work for her. So she can pull you into Caltraps and you'll get blown up without knowing it. This does take more time to scale though, and again, you are on more of a, you have less attack power built into your build, you have a worse weapon overall, but you get an insane weapon skill that works so well within her kit. Celica is very, very safe. She can hit you from a mile away. Her passive will not allow her to die early, essentially. She has a free self-peel out of with her E, deals a ton of damage. She gets the enhanced auto from her passive as well. The bubble is really, really good for keeping people off you, especially melees. But the biggest thing is that she really only gets punished by third parties. You may notice with these other characters, they have ways of getting out of third parties pretty easy. Sisela, if there's a third party, she's very squishy no matter what build you go, so you can punish her in that regard. But that is usually more of a, well, if your only weakness is that two people need to kill you, then that's probably not much of a weakness if you really think about it. Throw is probably better. I don't know, maybe sure can we move it down, but I just want to emphasize just how good Sisela's kit is right now, and to a point where it doesn't really matter where you go, you're gonna kind of just kill people for free. Throw Sisela has the same thing we just mentioned, except, well, her you're getting a better weapon. You're getting Redeeming Marble, which is an insane weapon. It is a slower build path and riskier, but it is still it's still good, very good regardless of the riskier path. If you get online, you're essentially God. No one can kill you. As long as you don't suicide into people, you're gonna be very, 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 very strong. Like insane. Like crazy, 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 very crazy strong. Kiara. Ooh. Not broken. Definitely not. I see people complain about her all the time. I don't think she's broken the slice. I do think I don't know where I put her in really good, but she's very, very good. Very safe. One of the better melee characters in the game right now. Very safe. Has defense ref on her passive. One of the characters that could build a super tank and just ride out a game, and has true damage built into her kit. So you're like, damn, this character is really good at just murdering squishy characters and characters that are probably playing a little too risky or have too much of a greedy build. And if Kiara catches up to you, you're probably as good as dead. And if Kiara doesn't want to die, there's a lot of matches where she could just, as long as she lands her root, she's walking away. She also did receive a ton of buffs, direct and indirect, so she's in a very, very, very good spot. You can also do crit as well, which is not bad, but is definitely riskier, and probably one I wouldn't recommend without putting a ton of games into it. But I do think that if you are playing Kiara right now, she is definitely more of a, hey, I want to be really tanky, I want to play a very slow game, I want to scale into the late game, and that's kind of how you play Kiara. You generally play for second place on her, not really for first. The next on the list that we have is Adriana, and I do think that Adriana is more of a viable character. Not broken, not insane, probably good. Man, the difference between good and viable is just so small. This tier probably isn't needed. Let's be quiet. This tier probably isn't needed. Let's just get rid of this tier. Honestly, this tier just delete this. Whoops. So yeah. Actually, yeah, this one's probably more accurate, honestly. Probably should left viable here. So yeah, this one, Adriana is good. She is not a broken character by any means. She is not insanely good. She doesn't do anything that any other character really can't do. In team mode, she's insane. In solos, not really too much. It requires a lot of effort to get your damage out, and it also requires a ton of effort to really just do the same thing that any other of these mages can do. You need very specific setups. You need to be finding people in the corridor. You need to line up your oil slicks properly. You need to really snowball early on. You have to play very greedy on this character. Yes, she is very good at running sometimes, but she's not as good as running as the other characters, and she's not as good as picking up kills like the other characters either. So she's definitely an okay character. Nothing crazy, not something I would really write home about, but yeah, I do think that overall, okay character. Not insane, love her, but man, I don't know. At the end of the day, she's just an okay character. I do think though, if she were to get buffed, she would definitely be overtuned, and that would be an issue. So right now, I think she's in an okay spot where I don't even really want to see her touch. She's very hard to play properly, and in teams, she's an absolute monster. But in solos, she does struggle quite a bit. Silvia. Oh, my bad. We need some coffee sips. Coffee sips very important. Actually, wait, no. Shuichi. Shuichi is... Sorry, I'm gonna have to break it to you. He's probably one of the only characters I would put in just viable. He's not so weak to the point where I do think he's unviable, but I do think he is restricted by two things. One, build path, very linear. Kind of unfortunate. You really only have a couple routes you can go. That makes sense. And two, you cannot wrap. If you get caught once pre-weapon skill, you're gonna die. But of course, if you've seen what people can do on Korea with 0 ping, well, you'll understand why this character has been receiving some nerfs and why he isn't absolutely insane right now. Most people on NA play with like 60 to 80 ping, and we can't do the combos that Korea can. Whereas, well, you kind of struggle on absolute ton getting full rotations off instantly. If you're playing on lower ping, you get like full rotations off and you could do a ton of extra combos without struggle, but with some ping, it's gonna really hurt your gameplay on him. Next one is Silvia. Silvia, easily one of the best level 6 characters in the game, and we know in the next patch, she is going to be receiving buffs to her late game potential, which really it's going to be really strong. Right now, Silvia's late game sucks, but she has really good ratting capabilities because of her ultimate and, you know, just having a knockback, a heal, and a slow, and a reset that gives her movement speed as well. So she's really hard to kill most of the time, unless she gets a little too greedy. But level 6, she can pick up kills very easily. So yeah, last thing you want to do is really just sleep on what a Silvia can do. Super strong character, underrated in my opinion, needs to be played more. Emma. You may be noticing a trend here of control mages being god tier right now. Emma was way too buffed. I said this from the beginning. The moment she got two charges on the ultimate and nothing else was changed, I was like, this character is gonna be insane. And yeah, I was right. I will admit it. I'm gonna pat myself on the back here. No, she is insane. She is broken out of her dang mind. She can do everything for free. She has a ton of damage in her kit. If she lands things in her kit, which really isn't that hard, you just get reduced cooldown on them. You have a polymorph, which is really fucking strong. She has insane gap closer, gap maker. Same way Hegen can jump over half the map, so can Emma. She can do the exact same ones, and it's insane. She has cowl traps, which does a ton of damage, and she can set up into it just the same way that Celica can, where, you know, she throws on a hat, she teleports to the hat, sucks you in, throws on cowl traps, and nothing you can do about it. You are just dead. So absolutely insane character. It needs nerfs like immediately. I don't understand why she is as good as she is. Lennox. I don't think there's very much to say about Lennox. She has one build path, literally only one. Avenue Beach. That's it. You have to go left near every game. It is just kind of sad. She's very limited. Her damage has been nerfed a ton. She's been nerfed an absolute ton in solos. Honestly, I am even more like happy to just put her more in a viable tier, where it's like she's not terrible, but I really wouldn't recommend her for solos. I do think that she is very weak, especially if you don't snowball early on. But I do think her early game is very strong. But she does have potential to run away, so that does make her pretty dang decent. But I don't know, her damage just isn't there. Her ratting isn't as good as other people. She really needs a snowball. It's a hard character to gauge. But she does have a silence in her kit. Not a lot of people are playing her. She's either good or viable, and I guess it's just probably... I'm going to stick it with the viable for now. I just don't think she's all that great. I really don't. Rozzy. She's honestly only reason she's not here right now is because she loses to these guys. Genuinely only. So she's like the top of really good, and if these got nerfed, she would be here. I think her numbers are quite literally that insane. She's that safe, and she's so hard to kill because her build is not contested by any other character in the game right now, that it kind of makes her absolutely broken. But the only thing holding her back is that she is weak against these characters. So yeah, absolutely insane character. Way too much HP in her build, way too safe. In her W is the most statted ability in the game. Stops healing, shreds through armor. It gives her movement speed and a dash. It's so crazy. Such a good character. Honestly, I love her design and a kit, but man, she really needs to be toned down a bit. Like, generally just needs to be toned down a bit. Like, honestly, I would have a tier right here that's just like Rozzy, which is just like almost broken, but not broken just because of these guys holding her back a bit. Only reason. Luke. All right, so the character we didn't make a tier list about last time is here, and Luke is... he's pretty good. He's not really good, but he's definitely good. Luke does have what we mentioned earlier where he lacks agency, but he is so strong early game to the point where it doesn't really matter if he lacks agency a lot of time. It's pretty much impossible to kill Luke early game because a lot of time he can just whack you with his mop and make it so that you can't really do anything about it. But some issues he does have is that, one, his weapon skill sucks. It does nothing for his kit. It's honestly the weirdest weapon skill on any character in this game. Like, you look at him, you're like, damn, this is a really cool kit. A lot of mobility in it, in combat mobility, a lot of fighting prowess, and then you have Bat. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Bat just doesn't do anything for him. Like, it knocks him away for you, it deals some damage, and it's just like, if you get into a wall to get a little bit stunned, it's somewhat of a self-peel tool, and situationally it is okay, but for the most part it's pretty damn useless. But at least the Bat weapons are good, so that's what makes Luke pretty happy. For an auto attacker, he's real happy to be getting Bat weapons. Aside from that, his damage is really high early on. It's very easy to get a few kills under your belt early game, but it is pretty hard to close out games since you are a melee that is relatively squishy and you need to land a very thin skill shot to get into your opponents. And if you're running into any of these, they're just gonna kill you the moment you get into them anyways, because it is interruptible. So yeah, his ultimate also sucks. Not really much of a way to set it up. It doesn't do a lot of damage. The best use of his ultimate is to buffer it on read, and that way you get it off as you're getting like CC'd, and that is really the best use out of it that you can make. Aside from that, not really much to say about Luke. Great character design, but not a lot going on for him right now. CATHY. I think CATHY is also in the top of like really good. CATHY is super strong. Dagger skill is amazing on her. She did get nerfed on her release, so I think I kind of said like how good she was, but she's a character that can snowball a game super easy, and her ultimate just is such a swingy ability that it doesn't really matter that she doesn't have a ton of agency, right? So normally if a character can run away, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad for them. But CATHY has move speed on her passive, a shield on her passive, a root on her E. She gains, you know, she can ground her opponents, and she has a lot of trading potential similar to Luke. But what she has what Luke doesn't, which is one, a dagger skill, an actual weapon skill, which is dagger, that does a ton of damage and gives her a ton of agency in these fights. And two, she has her ultimate, which is super fucking crazy. It could travel over terrain. It's unstoppable. It is on a very long cooldown to, you know, to justify all that power, but it is also, it can swing a fight in a CATHY's favor super fast. If they're both low and CATHY spells her ultimate up, CATHY's going to win that fight pretty much every single time. And yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. This is pretty much how I see solos at the moment. Of course, there's probably a couple things that could be swapped up for sure, but I think overall this is exactly where I see the metagame right now. I am curious to see how this changes in the next major patch, but yeah, I think that's gonna be it for me, guys. English, huh? That's gonna be it for me today, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed the tier list in the video, and I will see you all next time.